And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for joining me. If you're watching here live, I appreciate that. If you're watching this after, I definitely appreciate you watching after. And don't forget to leave your comments down below. Be nice. Be nice. We're all in this together. But leave your comments down below and we'll get to talking. So welcome. I'm Dave Guerra, and this is Let's Have a Chat About Leadership for Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. So yesterday it was supposed to be about sports and leadership, but it was also the first episode on the YouTube. It was the first one that went live on the YouTube. And so I kind of introducing myself and introducing everyone. And I've been noticing one thing that I didn't do that I should have done is a little bit more about me, not about the show, but about me and what I bring to the table and how I bring it. Yeah, I sound a little bitter, but that's because, well, there's no need to sound bitter, but yet I did come across as that, and that's okay, because sometimes you got to call things out as you see them. And sometimes if it comes across as bitter, it's because, well, you know what? I've had enough. And it's just that simple. And you get there. We all get there. We all get there. And that's when we know that it's time to start cutting cords, because if they're dangling there and they're in our face and they're not serving us any purpose, why are we giving any kind of attention to it? So that being said, that's what that is about. So my name is Dave Guerra. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I'm a native Texan. I'm an Army brat. And I also joined the military. So it's kind of true what they say, the military makes its own. And it really does. It really, truly does, which is pretty cool. And let's see, I've got my master's in business administration, like I said. I've worked for the federal government and the Department of Defense, actually. And then I worked for state government, and then I went into the private sector. So I've kind of run the gamut of where I've worked and experienced a lot of things as far as the different aspects of it go and how things go. You know, in the military, the one thing, especially the U.S. Army, and really all branches, don't get me wrong, but I'm more partial to the U.S. Army. It's about leadership. It's about being the leader that you want to follow. It's about being the leader that can take people from point A to point B with their lives still intact and winning the battle, winning the war. And that's really what it's all about. And so in the military, I was an infantryman, and we were taught to, well, get out there and lead. And as I got older, it kind of fell upon me that, after I left the military and then realized that, hey, I'm no longer out there leading from the front. Sometimes now I have to sit back and share what I've learned, my experience, my wisdom and knowledge, and I share it. Whether others like it or not, that's besides the point. I'm still doing it. And if it turns out that I end up calling out others, it's because there's a reason. Either I call them out because they're damn good leaders, or two, they didn't know how to pull their head out of their 4 points of contact, and everybody knew it. It showed everybody, and nobody was immune to their nonsense. So I get it. It's leadership is very, very finicky, very, very fickle. It definitely is something that, well, I don't know how to say this, but it's gonna hurt. It hurts a lot. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot, because that's what leadership does. Is you're putting yourself out there. You're putting yourself out in front, and it's going to hurt. But why does it have to hurt? Because your passion and what you believe in and what you aspire to deliver, that's really where I come from. That's the place I come from, is I have this passion to share with others about, what, the nonsense needs to stop. If they tell you to stay home, you stay home. But if they say you can go out, that doesn't mean that you should go bonkers and just go insane with the going out and breathing on people. And trust me, no one, I guarantee you, no one, or from here on out, everyone's going to give a second thought to eating that slice of cake after the candles have been blown out over that cake. Guarantee you, I know I'm going to think about it, and maybe there might need to be the new norm of blowing out candles. I'm just saying, because I guarantee you, I'm not going to take it. It's like, no, you blew all over it. I don't know where you've been. But again, that's the second thoughts. And because of this new normal, it's changing everything. It's changing everyone's perspective. And that's necessary. The perspective is necessary. The leadership is necessary. The views and angles of leadership definitely have to change. So typically on Tuesday. So that's me. And I've written some books on leadership. I also write some historical fiction. I love historical fiction. And I do this video show. I have a podcast that you're more than welcome to sign up to. It's called the Walking Leader Podcast. It's on Apple Podcast. It's the Walking Leader Podcast, all one word, or not all one word, but a bunch of 4 words. The Walking Leader Podcast. There we go. And by all means, I do recommend you sign up. I like it. I do it. I've been doing it for I don't know how long. I've been doing these videos for I don't know how long. But again, if there's traction, there's traction. If there's no traction, there's no traction. But either way, I'm still doing the videos. Why? Because I believe in what I'm saying. Because I believe that everyone has that potential to either be a leader or is already a leader, a future leader. And if you don't believe that, then you don't believe in yourself, then yes, you deserve exactly the kind of leadership you're allowing yourself to be led by the nose by. And that's bad leadership. That's bad managers. And folks, that's not a good thing. In life, you don't need that. We don't have time for that. This COVID-19 thing has shown us our own mortality. And if we want to be led like sheep, like lambs to slaughter, no, we don't need to. We need to step up and be the leader we want to follow. And that's what it's all about, because you know, and I know, and we all know that there's trouble with leadership. There's a problem. There's a leadership problem everywhere, not just in the United States, but all over the world. There is a problem with leadership. And that's where we have to work together to make it happen. So let's get together and make it happen. So Tuesday nights, it's about, let's have a chat about leadership in the news. And what I do is I go out there and I scour the internet and I'm looking for something and see what's available, what's going on and what's happening. And there's several places, several of the news outlets I like to look at. I like to look at things and talk about them and understand that, hey, some things just are, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. I'm kind of scanning right now. I like to scan all the news outlets. Yes, the left ones, the right ones, the up ones, the down ones, the partial, the impartial ones, the fair ones, the balanced ones, the unfair, the unbalanced ones. There's plenty of those. Why is that? So again, I like to look at it and see what we can find and talk about and go from there. And let's see what we've got. And again, I want to try to get away from the coronavirus because there's plenty of that news and there's a lot, and I'm not minimizing it, but it's done. And people have talked about it, and there's great heroes, there's great individuals, there's those human achievement stories, the conquering hero kind of stories, and we need a lot of those. And we need a lot of this. But I just saw the one, and this one disturbed me, one, because it happened here in my state, and it's crazy. It's the park ranger was telling the crowd to social distance mid-speech, and then someone pushed him into the lake. And this was in Austin, Texas. And of course, Austin, Texas, if you've ever been to Austin, you'll know that, that's insane. But again, it doesn't surprise me. But what does surprise me is that somebody actually went off and assaulted the public servant, in this case, a park ranger. And in this case, I can't tell if the park ranger was armed, because then if they're armed, then they're law enforcement, because they've actually surpassed the the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement officers, and that's the certification that every police officer in the state of Texas has to have in order to have a job in the state of Texas. Doesn't matter you're a sheriff's deputy, you're a city police officer, you're a constable, it doesn't matter. And so they got it on video. They found the gentleman that did the pushing. 25-year-old kid faces charge of attempted assault on a public servant, a state jail felony. And it looks like the Travis County Sheriff Office is going to go for it and prosecute. And everyone, I don't know what possesses people to just go ahead and start assaulting public officials. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand the frustrations, but again, there has to be a level of civility. There has to be a level of understanding, and And clearly, had this been maybe 4 months ago, would this individual, with this one individual that's named here in the CNN article, the CNN article is titled, "Park Ranger was telling the crowd to social distance mid-sentence. Someone pushed him into the lake." It's by Paul P. Murphy and Artemis Mushtagian and K. Jones, updated at 1:16 a.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. So the name I'm drawing from is, I'm drawing this from that website, Brandon Hicks, 25. It shows that he pushed the park ranger. Now, and so amid the crosstalk in the video, Stillwell, I guess, is heard yelling, telling the crowd, the doc, to disperse themselves. Stillwell, being the park ranger, in a grassy area nearby, they were not maintaining physical distance of 6 feet. There's physical distancing, not social distancing. And someone said, with "Will do, I got you, man." The park rangers are interrupted when a man pushes him into the shallow, murky water. The ranger holds onto the man's arm and pulls him in. Good for him. The man, clad in a swimsuit, scrambles out of the water and rushes away. And attorney Mark Hull told CNN in a statement Monday he looks forward to telling Hicks' side of the story. And what would that be? I mean, the video shows this the back off, the standoff story. So I don't know, but it could be something. He's embarrassed about his actions and has the utmost respect for law enforcement, particularly during these unprecedented times. 1, no. 2, no. And this was not an excuse because it's unprecedented times. Obviously, no. And the eyewitness who shot the video said that the park visitors were closer to each other than they should have been. The ranger was just telling us to spread apart, to keep our distance, and honestly, being super reasonable and understanding. So yeah, he didn't come in like, I don't know if y'all watch Live PD, and there was this incident this past week, and those couple of those, what did I call them? The 80s movie bad sidekick officers, are the way they're dressed up. That's kind of what it reminded me. They're trying to be the cool ones, but instead they end up not being. So again, but that was just their professionalism. They have it to a point, and in this case, that would be what not to do. And in this case, what it sounds like is the ranger was what to do. So again, the ranger still has his job to do, and the citizens still have their job, and both working together. Well, they could have dispersed, but this other individual, and in the mug shot, it shows him all smiles and kind of laughing about it. It was oh, okay. I read something else, and it's like, no, I don't remember he was unconscious. But no, the officer who submitted the affidavit said the ranger could have struck his head on the dock as he was falling and rendered himself unconscious in 3 feet of water where he could have drowned to death. Folks, it only takes a tablespoon of water to drown. It really, truly does. So we ask that the public treat rangers with the same respect they wish to be shown on themselves. And that's true. I mean, if this guy's being nice about it and it's all cool, and everybody was in compliance, then, this guy really had nothing to do with jumping in. So the leadership here begins with the self. The leadership here begins with taking care of yourself and taking care of the situation and addressing the situation and realizing, hey, maybe I just need to keep my mouth shut and step back. And then again, by that same point, there's everybody else. Why didn't they police that kid, that stopped him? But, again, it's after the fact, armchair quarterback, hindsight is 2020. We get that. But folks, it's all about discipline. It's all about being disciplined. It's all about having some self-control and realizing that sometimes nobody wants to hear your nonsense and nobody wants to see you act the fool. And then, of course, yeah, there's times for the nonsense. There's times for acting like the fool. But in dealing in a situation where you're actually throwing, the guy didn't know how deep it was. I'm more sure this kid didn't know how deep it was. I know I don't. I've walked out onto some lakes, and it's like, ankle deep at some point, and then the next thing I know, I've slipped into a deep spot. And that was in my younger days when I was a kid and I'd go fishing. I've learned my lesson since then. But what I'm getting at is a little self-discipline, a little initiative, a little foresight, a little thinking ahead, and most of all, being a little bit more respectful. That's really, truly where the issue lies, is in the self and developing those. And sometimes, in these unprecedented times, he's lucky somebody didn't pull out a revolver and return fire on him. or tased them or anything. But again, that would be the worst case scenario, but it didn't happen that way. But again, we don't know how this could have turned out had it been something and someone else in a different location. So with that being said, everyone, just take care of yourselves. Listen to what this do. Listen to what they're asking you to do, and also go ahead and take care of yourselves. Alrighty. Well, listen, Dave here. I'm done. Have a good evening. Dave out.